I have always had a complicated relationship with my younger brother Jake. Growing up, he always seemed to want whatever I had, from toys to friends to girlfriends. Our parents were wealthy business owners who doted on Jake as the baby of the family, and he never really had to face consequences for his actions. When I met Sarah, 30F, 3 years ago, I knew she was the one. Smart, beautiful, ambitious, everything I'd ever wanted in a partner. She's a pediatric nurse who volunteers at animal shelters on weekends, and we connected instantly over our shared love of hiking and true crime documentaries. For the first time, I felt like I had something Jake couldn't take from me. Last month, I proposed during a weekend trip to the mountains where we first said, "I love you." She said yes, and we celebrated by calling our families. My parents insisted on throwing us an engagement party at their lake house, which they've always reserved for special family occasions. The party was perfect. Everyone was there, my parents, extended family, close friends. Even Jake seemed genuinely happy for us, which I found surprising but refreshing. He gave a toast wishing us well, and pulled me aside afterward to apologize for being competitive when we were younger. I actually teared up a bit, thinking we were finally moving past our childhood issues. Sarah and I stayed overnight at the lake house, while everyone else left. My parents stayed at their condo in the city, saying they wanted to give us engagement privacy. Jake was supposed to have left with everyone else. The morning after the party, I woke up early to make breakfast for Sarah. She wasn't in bed, but I figured she went for a run since she's an early riser. I was mixing pancake batter when I heard strange noises coming from the boathouse. Thinking an animal might have gotten trapped inside, I went to check. What I found shattered my world. Sarah and Jake were having sex on the old couch my parents keep in there. They were so caught up in each other, they didn't even notice me standing in the doorway for a good 30 seconds. When they finally saw me, Sarah burst into tears while Jake just looked smug, like he'd finally won our lifelong competition. All he said was, "Sorry, bro. Some things never change." I don't remember much about the next few minutes. I just turned and walked away while Sarah called after me, saying it wasn't what it looked like, seriously, and Jake laughed. I grabbed my keys, got in my car, and drove around the lake for hours trying to process what had happened. My phone blew up with texts and calls from Sarah begging me to let her explain. Apparently, it was just a mistake and didn't mean anything. Jake texted once saying, "Don't be dramatic." She came on to me anyway. When I finally went back to the lake house that evening, they were both gone. I packed up Sarah's things, drove to our apartment, left everything in boxes outside the door, and checked into a hotel. I blocked Sarah's number, but decided to deal with Jake differently. See, Jake works for my parents' company. They've been grooming him to take over eventually, despite the fact that he's lazy, incompetent, and only got the job because of nepotism. I, on the other hand, built my own successful tech consulting business from scratch because I wanted to make it on my own merits. Jake has also been living in one of my parents' investment properties rent-free for years. Mom and Dad have been financially supporting him his entire adult life, hoping he'd find his passion. Meanwhile, I've been completely independent since college. What Jake and Sarah didn't know was that I had installed security cameras at the lake house last Christmas after some break-ins in the area. The boathouse had a perfect view of their little rendezvous, including the part where Jake initiated everything while Sarah was half asleep. I waited until Sunday evening when my family traditionally has dinner together. I texted my parents saying I had an announcement about the wedding and asked if we could do a video call with the whole family. They were excited, thinking we'd set a date. Instead, they got a complete screen recording of Jake seducing my fiancée. I narrated exactly what happened, how Jake had manipulated the situation, and how this wasn't the first time he'd tried to take something important from me. When I finished showing the video, the call was dead silent. Then my mom started crying. My dad, who I've never seen truly angry before, told Jake to get out of their house immediately. My sister called Jake disgusting. My grandparents looked heartbroken. Jake tried to play it off, saying Sarah had been flirting with him all night, and I was always the favorite son anyway. That's when my dad dropped the bomb. Not anymore. You're cut off completely. It's been 3 weeks since everything imploded. The fallout has been both worse and better than I expected. My parents were true to their word. They fired Jake from the company, gave him 30 days to vacate their property, and froze all financial support. When he tried to argue that he couldn't afford rent anywhere else, my dad simply said, "Not my problem anymore." Sarah has been relentless in trying to contact me. She showed up at my office crying, claiming Jake had manipulated her when she was vulnerable and drunk. She swears it was the first and only time anything happened between them. I don't believe her, and neither does anyone else. My sister told me Sarah had been texting Jake for months before the engagement party. The most unexpected development came from my parents. They called me to apologize for enabling Jake's behavior all these years. Apparently, there were other incidents I never knew about. Jake had made passes at my high school girlfriend, sabotaged my college applications, and even tried to undermine my business when I first started. My parents had always covered for him, thinking he would grow out of it. Now my parents are selling the lake house. Too many bad memories, they said. They've also revised their will, removing Jake as a beneficiary of their estate. It's not what I wanted. I never meant to destroy my brother's relationship with our parents completely, but I understand their decision. The extended family has largely sided with me, with the exception of my mom's sister, who thinks I should have handled everything privately. Most have blocked both Jake and Sarah on social media and uninvited them from future family gatherings. Jake finally reached out yesterday, not to apologize but to accuse me of ruining his life out of spite. He said if I had just manned up and gotten over it, everything would be fine. That's when I knew I'd made the right decision in exposing him. As for me, I'm still processing everything. I've started therapy to work through the betrayal and the end of my engagement. I'm not ready to date again. Probably won't be for a long time. But I'm focusing on my business and reconnecting with friends I'd neglected during my relationship with Sarah. Sometimes I feel guilty about how thoroughly Jake has been excommunicated from the family. But then I remember his face in the boathouse, that smug smile that said he'd finally won. Some lessons have to be learned the hard way. And Jake is finally learning that actions have consequences. And me? I'm learning that sometimes family is who you choose, not who you're born with.